It is Tim's Vinyl Confessions once again, and it's once again an edition of the Y&T Deep Dive. I'm Tim Durling, joined by my co-host John the Music Nut.
Hi, Tim. Great to be here as always.
And we're here to talk about one of the most exciting albums for me as a Y&T fan, because it came 13 years after the two 90s independent albums, and Y&T were doing a lot of touring. They put up some cool releases. They put up the unreleased, the Unearthed series, which we've talked about. They reissued the first two albums on a single CD. They put out the two 90s albums in a single package. They did the remasters of most of the A&M albums, but there had been no new Y&T studio album. But sometime, I think in 2009, early 2010, it was announced they were working on a new album. And finally, about halfway through the year, we got Facemelter. With classic John Taylor Dismukes artwork that harkens way back to the 80s. This was put up by the band themselves, and we're going to tell you what we thought of Facemelter. So, yeah, I mean, it's always a degree of trepidation when a classic band comes back after so many years with a new album. You want so much for it to be good. You're afraid it won't be. But then when you listen to it and you realize it is, it's, what was I worried about? But there's always that, I get that, man, what if this sucks? But
yeah,
definitely wasn't the case here. So now, do I think all of it is absolutely perfect? Yeah, we're going to get into that. But yeah, Facemelter. Now, I talked about this as a minor quibble in my Y&T book, Down for the Count, the Y&T album review. They obviously had the sleeves and the inserts printed up before the album came out, because they all say 2009 on them. But I know this album did not come out until June 2010. I pre-ordered it off the website, and everybody was talking about it, and the build up. So this is not a 2009 album for younger people that may be discovering it. Did not come out 2009. It just didn't.
right.
This was, listening back to this now, it's hard not to get sort of a wistfulness about this, because this was the last album with Phil Kennemore. He got cancer. First he was off the road and Brad Lang stepped in. And then in 2011, less than a year after this came out, Phil sadly passed away. And so this was really near and dear to him. He was really, really excited about putting this out, and he had a lot of input into this, specifically the opening prelude and the first track, On With the Show. Let's just talk about the prelude, John. What were your thoughts when you first heard this?
And I did buy this when it first came out, but I did get it from Amazon. So yeah, when I first heard this, and I talk about this in Tim Durling's book, it had the feel of going to a play and having that big introduction. So like you would have that on in the beginning from Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue, the big welcome from Wasps Inside the Electric Circus. But this was a lot more class to this intro.
Yeah, more theatrical.
More theatrical, yes. So when I heard that, I mean, it makes you sound like you're going to an event. And then when you go into that song, On With the Show, there's Phil's bass leading the way. Very high, punchy, and up in that mix. And what a way to start an album.
Yeah.
What a wicked opener. Great performance by the band. Phil's counter lines during the choruses are wonderful. Phil is a very underrated bass player, very strong writer, and we've given him a lot of respect for that. But very underrated bass player. It's nice to hear him have such a great forum, or hear his performance on here, and really hear this so high up into the mix. Great driving track. It's soaring opener. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very powerful. It's very self-explanatory. And this is a sole Kennemore written song. So he wrote all the lyrics and the music. It's a real 1-2 punch that just sets you up for, an experience. Now, we talked about this in the book. The whole album doesn't exactly fit this sort of grand um, setup. Some of them are just good songs,
Correct.
but for setting the scene, this does an excellent job.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, and one of the finest songs on the album as well, too.
Yeah, by far.
Definitely have to say that. Yes.
And they did this live. They did actually, to their credit, if you look at the live at the Mystic, if you were fortunate enough to see them around this time, they did a lot of the songs from this album. Like they really pushed it. This was Phil's baby. Like he was very adamant that, apparently there was some talk that they wanted to have another song open. He said, no, it's on with the show.
Mm-hmm.
So, next up, How Long? What do you think of this one?
Okay, this is decent. I like the guitar lines in this. And the guitar lines will repeat at the end of the choruses also. Verses are decent. It's very mid-tempo. There's a nice bridge on the song as well. It's not like a banger. It doesn't, it's not a banger like you would, but you have that here. The 1-2 punch would be the prelude and on with the show. Here, it's decent. And what I hear a lot on this album, they're kind of going into classic rock vein.
Yeah.
They're not really hard rock so much. The class is still there. The melodies are still there. Strong performances. Dave still sounds great.
Yeah.
But they're getting a little mellower if you look at the album overall. Not saying it's a mellow album, but if you compare it to what came before, it plays almost more like a classic rock album. Yeah. And I think this is like Exhibit A, because you have more songs like this. They're mid-tempo, well-written, but, they're not grabbing you by the throat like they used to.
It almost sounds like there should have been a song in between On With Show and this one.
Yes, to keep up that momentum that you have On With the Show.
Then by the time this came on, you'd be like, I'm ready for something a little bit. And another thing, I like the song. I think Dave's vocal on it is great. The chorus of the song reminded me a lot of the song No Smoke Without a Fire by Bad Company.
From,
Dangerous Age album, which I love that time period. I love the Brian Howe Bad Company stuff. But that How Long, it's like,
there's no smoke without.
Yeah.
I have those cassettes.
Yeah. Not to the point of ripoff. That's just where I went with it.
Nice call. I would have never caught that, but that's great.
And I mean, How Long is a much used song title. That doesn't mean it's a bad song. I just, it already, it's kind of, I don't know. I've always enjoyed this album. I was excited about it, but I've always had this feeling that it was either, I don't know if it's the sequencing. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it, because I'm not. Maybe it's just the fact that it waited such a long time for a new album that, we once we listen to it a few dozen times, then you start thinking about it, and then you start, but so it's certainly not bad. So
it's solid.
You nailed it on the head with the classic rock thing, because especially with this next track, Shine On.
Right, and again, this song I like more because that ringing melodic guitar line is really cool, and nice chorus on here. There's glorious solos during the choruses too. And you have that quiet into loud thing that they do really well too. A lot of bands have been picking up on that, but Y&T always did it really well. But again, it's still that mid-tempo, kind of safe.
Yeah.
But
it's almost like a heavy Foreigner.
Yeah, that sounds right. I would say that. And that's not knock on Foreigner, because that's their best. They were
knock on Y&T.
They were outstanding.
Yeah,
they were craftsmen.
Yeah. And it's lyrically it's fun. It's it's dedicated to the ladies that come out to the shows, and it kind of reminds me. This came out. Well, actually, no. This came out the year. It reminds me of a song on the first Chickenfoot album called "My Kind of Girl," which is
Okay.
very, very similar.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's similar. Not too far away as far as sound goes either, right? It's just 4-piece rock band. By the way, also, yeah, this is the first time John Nymann appeared as a band member, proper on an album. So it does get a little bit more rocking for the next track. I Want Your Money.
Okay, then this is more like it.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe this should have been the next track after On With the Show.
yeah, I would agree with that completely, Tim. This is when they play live. They still play this one live a lot to this day. Another Dave had these songs where it was very in your face creative wordplay.
Yeah.
And this is also, it might be a cousin of Mean Streak. You know what I mean? It gets kind of similar subject matter here, but really catchy.
Yeah.
Great sing-along chorus on it. Yeah, this is more the Y&T you know and love. But I mean, it's not as heavy.
No.
Not even as heavy.
And a lot of that is the way it's recorded, right?
Right. It's true too. Like the guitars don't really crunch on here like they used to.
Yeah.
You know, but very well written song. I mean, if you're a diehard fan, you're gonna dig this song because it is reminiscent of those early to mid 80s albums. And it has have that creative lyric there by Dave.
Lyrically, it's like it's Mean Streak territory. It's anything for money. It's something for nothing. They've mined that. And I did not know this until I did my interviews for the book. This is written about Gene Simmons, and at this time, yeah,
that's true.
Was the Family Jewels, and it was Tongue Magazine, and it was putting the Kiss logo on everything. And I got to tell you, man, like throughout I'm a Kiss fan, but in that time period, in that decade, before Sonic Boom came out, I was kind of a lapsed fan. I was so disinterested because it was just, and the merchandise they were coming out with was just getting crappier and crappier and crappier. And so I can see why, they would have been like, come on, man. I'm sure they knew him. You know what I mean? Being from the same era, but I didn't. But I would never. But classy guys they are. It's never blatant. But I didn't. Right. So I would never have guessed who this was about, particular. But that's what it's about. So I kind of grinned when I found that out, and then I listened to it again. I go with that in mind.
Yeah.
Next up, you had talked about Wasp. Only similarities in the title. Wow.
Right.
Yeah, only similarities in the title.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And this one is a sole writing cut from John Nymann, the new guy, quote unquote. What do you think of this one?
Another nice acoustic into electric song here. When it goes into pre-choruses, I can't wait that long. Then the song picks up. The choruses, though, I wish they were a little more rocking, but they kind of get whimsical again. Like the beginning of the verses do. Again, I mean, you're waiting for it to take off, and it doesn't quite. I mean, it's a good song, well written, but it doesn't have that same fire.
Yeah.
You're waiting for the fire, and it doesn't come. But it's not a skip.
No.
Like don't say like it's not like some songs on a few other like Down for the Count, which we talked about.
Exactly.
There's some songs on there I can't listen to. I could still listen to this and enjoy it, but I'm waiting for something a little more. Maybe it's because we waited so long for a new album, and something that Tim and I have talked. I told this to Tim off air one day. Are we more critical of the bands that we love?
Yeah. It's almost like we're grading them, and it's not on purpose. It's just as fans, you've built up this idea, and when anything less than, it's really not fair to any band, because they're just poor guys coming in. One of the things I like about this album, and I commented on it at the time, this song was written by John Nymann, and yet if I didn't know, I would have thought this was a Dave Phil. So it just kind of illustrates, he was absolutely, he had the Y&T DNA, even
He
before
did.
he was officially a member of the band. And I'm
Good for
glad they
him.
included a solely written song on here. But what was I going to say? Getting old sucks. That I had a thread that just totally left my mind. Yeah, this song is a bit of a breather. I know what you mean. You kind of expect more of that light and shade, and there's more light than anything. The
Yes,
chorus
correct.
isn't really, again, maybe that's the recording. I think it's a perfectly good recording. It's self-produced, but it
Yes.
sounds good. It sounds really good. But maybe it'll come back to me, John. But right now, let's get into one of the finest tracks on the album, and obviously the band thought so too. They shot a video for it. I'm Coming Home.
Oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
This is just everything you would ever want in a Y&T song. And I remember seeing the video to this before I got the album. And again, it was one of those things. What was I worried about? They're back, and they've never sounded as good as they do. Like, this is amazing.
that's how certain bands that I love, I'd see that video before the album came out or as it was coming out, and I'd be so excited. And that was how I felt about this. Just to name another band, I love Accept, and
Yeah.
Accept had a long hiatus.
Yeah.
They had a long hiatus from Predator, and then they came back 14 years later with Blood of the Nations. They came back with Mark Turnillo as their vocalist. And I was curious, right? Because I was like, Accept's back? Because I thought they were done.
Yeah.
And when I heard Teutonic Terror, I was like getting goosebumps. And I thought it was so amazing. And I'm like, holy shit. That's where I felt. That's how I felt with I Want Your Money. Or I'm sorry, I'm Coming Home.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Although I do love I Want Your Money, but I'm Coming Home, I had that same feel. It had that video. Spectacular chorus. That guitar line is such a hook in itself.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love the pre-choruses on here. The performances by the band are so wonderful. This is my favorite song on the album. This is just killer. Absolutely. And they play this live all the time. I've seen them end sets with this song.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is killer. This is
Dave sounds so good on this. Video doesn't have the impact that it did, but when I remember watching this, I'm like, this is the coolest they've ever looked. This is the best video they've ever done. Like, they look so cool.
I agree with that. Yes.
They look like rock gods now,
Me too. Oh, and let's just say Mike Vanderhule.
Yeah, it's his first album too. I tend to forget that because he wasn't in the band long. It's just John Nymann had such a long history with the band. But yeah, Mike had been in the band 4 years at this point, and he fits right in.
Yes, his performance here is spectacular. They don't miss a beat here. I mean, as talented as Leonard and Jimmy were, Mike fits in like a glove. He's a talent himself, and John Nymann is spectacular throughout this album too, with his contributions and his great guitar playing. Excellent stuff.
So the next one, If You Want Me, I find this is almost a sort of a sister song to Wild Child, very similar in tempo, except this one's a Dave and Phil track.
This is similar in tempo, but it has a much stronger chorus.
Yeah.
It plays more like a ballad. But yeah, it's acoustic into the electric here, but the chorus is much stronger. I think this is very good. Another one of their power ballads, even though it's not so grandiose like some of those ones from the 80s.
Yeah, not bad. Okay, next up. Somebody always gives us crap for bagging on Barroom Boogie. Well, I'm about to bag on another song. Hot Shot. Go take it, John.
It's okay. I mean, it's a decent rock song. I mean, it's not the great shakes. I mean, we're going to talk about some songs that were not on that weren't on the version you bought from Amazon.
Right.
And I would happily put one of those songs on front of this. It's nothing spectacular. It's okay.
This sounds like one of the songs that could have ended up on the Unearthed CDs, like 16 Ton. I agree. Yeah, this is not a big statement. I mean, it's got that Phil Kennemore humor. If you know what Phil was like,
Right.
Musically, it's a bit of an AC/DC sounding song, although the chorus, I mean, the way they say "hot shot" is not dissimilar to "hot blooded." But
Hmm.
yeah, it's just it's not the worst offender on this album as far as lyrics, but we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that.
Right.
Next up, a really interesting track. It's one of the heavier ones in the album, "Blind Patriot." What do you think of this one?
This song kicks ass. This is
Yeah.
probably maybe my third favorite, next to, well, maybe fourth. I'm Coming Home, On With the Show, maybe I Want Your Money, and then this one. As far as my favorites on the album, this kicks ass. This Mike really drives this song.
Yeah.
This is killer. I mean, and you're probably thinking, oh, he only likes the heavy songs. Well, I do like the craftsmanship as well. It's just a well-written song. I like it, very spirited, great chorus. I mean, it's a straight great blue collar rock song,
Yeah.
and with a lot of energy and a lot of fire. It's cool.
And there's parts in it that really are reminiscent of their older like fast songs. The ready, armed and ready. That's like Open Fire sort of
Yep.
era.
It does.
Yeah, it's a great faster song. Yeah, really good, really good. All right. Gonna go blind. I'm glad that I've done this deep dive with you because you had one of the funniest quotes in my book about this song. Didn't quite understand what Dad was getting at.
Yeah, well, what we talked about in the book was my dad said that to me because I found his Hustler magazines.
Yeah.
And I guess he was looking for his Hustler magazine and and he just says, "Don't be reading them, you're gonna go blind." And I'm 12 years old and I'm like, blind? I'm gonna go blind? And my mom goes, just Dad's way of saying don't look at Playboy books.
and
that's just a great story.
Listen,
rest in peace, Dad. It's something I'll always remember.
And listen, right, what you said right there is not all that different to how the lyrics to this song read. I mean, it's not, you read the title like, that's not what I think it's going to be about. No, it's exactly what you think it's going to be about.
Exactly.
I don't care for the song musically. To me, they're capable of so much better. Yeah. I know it's a breather and stuff, but I don't like the way Dave sings it. It's just not, they're capable of better than this. You can allow one or two things. Like Hot Shot at least is written like it's like Cold Day in Hell. It's surprisingly like, wow, like, did he really say that? But this is just, I don't know. What do you think about the song musically?
It's okay. I mean, not the great shakes. It's another one, I say it's in a book, you could take this off. I mean, it's okay. They could do better. I mean, this is below their high standard.
Yeah, lest anyone think, where I've never been one of those, no blind patriot. I've never been one of those blind fans. I like what I like and I don't like what I don't like. It's just that, when they're one of your favorite bands, I think one of the criteria for being a favorite band is you pretty much like most of what they do. And I do. I love most of what they do. So when something doesn't quite hit the mark, you think, Anyway, let's move on. Number 12, Don't Bring Me Down. Not an ELO cover. Not a Beatles cover.
Right.
What do you think?
And it's not as good as those either. I mean, it's okay. Little stronger than the songs that we are not too fond of, in my opinion, but kind of got an AC/DC vibe to it. I'm not a fan of the chorus at all. Like some of these songs near the end of the album, it dragged the album down as far as the quality goes. Which is hard to say when you're a big fan, but you got to be true to yourself and say how you feel. It's okay. I mean, again, something maybe I would have put on Earth. And took something off there and put it on here.
Although I do, the lyrics are interesting to me because having been a pretty active member of that forum, there were some trolls. There were people that would come on there to just stir up trouble, and I never
Yeah,
understood that. I'm like, why are you here? What what do you get out of this? I've never gotten my mind around that. What satisfaction do people have, or how sad is it you have to be to get your satisfaction from trolling? You
right,
know, it's you hate my band and you hate my name, but you're here every day. And
right. Yeah,
it
I like the song. I like what they're writing about because it
yeah,
is a problem.
yeah,
It was a problem then. It's a bigger problem now. I
much
don't. The
bigger
song
problem now.
itself, yeah. Oh, definitely. It just
Yeah,
um. Let's let's make a name for ourselves by throwing hate. I mean,
yeah,
you know, make a change in your life, people. You know,
yeah,
that's how I
yeah.
feel. But again, but just the song itself, how it's written, I'm not really a big fan of it. But I
It's
do agree with
it's pretty
the
basically
subject
written,
matter.
right? Like
Yeah.
yeah. And now the final song on the album, as it was available not only through Amazon but through the website, is "One Life." What do you think of this one?
Okay. It's a strong track. It doesn't feel like a closer to me. It's something I would have put in a different spot. To me, Y&T, you end with the ballad. That's always
Yeah,
going to be in my brain. Or you know, or you. I don't think you end out with like just a straight good rock song. I mean, this is another song about being young. Oh, actually, this has some like cabin fever feel in it. Like I gotta get out, I gotta go out and have a good time type thing. Um, so something like that, I mean, yeah, it's a universal feel, but I don't think it works as a closer, but it's a decent track.
yeah, yeah. And so, lest anyone think we're slagging on this album, we're really not. It's a
Right.
really strong album for a band to come back with after 13 years with a new lineup in the recording studio and deliver a decent album. This is a more than decent album. It's a good album. I don't know if I'd call it a great album, but it's a good album.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so this is where, little public service announcement to people. This CD is still available on their website, but let it be known that if you want all the songs that were available this on CD, you've got to get 3 different CDs because there were 2 international bonus tracks. I think both of those bonus tracks were really strong and would
Mm-hmm.
have made this album a tighter 13-track album. And those are Losing My Mind and Deadly Deceiver. As far as I know, the only way to get those all in one place is if you get the vinyl version, which Night of the Vinyl Dead put out, because I love this. It's 2 records, but they do include those songs at the end. And those both work better as closers than One Life. But I think they're both really great songs. And yeah, I wish they'd made the album, Rob.
I do as well. Yes, they would fit in like a glove. Take out um something like Hot Shots. Well, Wild Child, I mean, maybe, but I mean, Hot Shot and Gonna Go Blind. I think,
And
yeah,
don't
you
take
could.
them out and eliminate them. Make those the bonus tracks.
I mean, yeah, there you go. Make them the bonus tracks and put
My
these songs as the proper on the proper track listing.
Yeah, and I'll give him credit. I mean, Dave, all the band members and even some of the former members were on the website at one time. It was very active, and they had no problem
Nice.
talking to people.
Hmm.
Dave even kind of explained, look, the deals we signed, you have to have a bonus track here, bonus track there.
Right.
I understand. It's one of those things. I understand. It doesn't mean I have to like it. I think that if you pre-order the CD from the band's website, you should get all the songs. There should have
Yes.
been some sort of exclusive, or if you pre-ordered before such and such. After that, you just get the standard 13-track album. You know, um, some kind souls were good enough to send me the MP3s, so that's good.
Nice.
So there you go. Y&T Facemelter. So far, the most recent Y&T studio album. Dave has said he has shown interest in a new album. I really hope so because they've still got a really strong lineup. And Dave is still, I mean, if Dave's singing as well as he is live, that means he can still sing really well in the studio when he's got time
Definitely.
to do it again and do it again and do it again. So listen, if they came out with an album equally as good as this album, I would be over the moon happy.
And he doesn't need auto tune either.
No. And listen, I've said this before, I've joked with people, I would love nothing more than to have a really good reason to do another edition of this because there's another album to talk about. So I really hope it happens. I really hope it happens. So there you go. So far, though, that concludes the Y&T Deep Dive look through their studio albums. John, thank you so much for helping me out with this. John can be found on a variety of channels doing deep dives and or otherwise. John, I mean, you know, you're just like the go-to guy, but where can people find you online?
Thanks, Tim, and thank you for asking me to be a part of this series, and the book is the Down for the Count book as well. I've been every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find me on My Music Corner with our good friend John Clauser. We're doing a series on Judas Priest right now. We are about halfway through the catalog as we are recording this. I also do shows on the Contrarians. That's where you saw most of us originally. And I'm also on Rock Daydream Nation. I'm on Wasting Some Time with Average Joe. I've done an appearance on Curless Mania, Bicycle Legs. I've done some shows with Daniel as well. So yeah, I'm around. Oh, I'm sorry, Grant's Rock Warehouse. I'm on there pretty frequently as well, and we're talking about a lot of different music on there. So if you watch a lot of these channels, you're gonna see me eventually. That's just how it goes.
And I find sooner or later, if you watch enough episodes of the Contrarians, you'll see Grant's episode, you'll see Daniel's episode, you'll see mine, and like it's all the algorithm knows, I think, who similar names. Yeah,
they do, and we've all become friends doing this.
Yeah,
friends all over the world. That's a great thing. I mean, if you ever consider joining the Contrarians, it really is a great community. We're from all over, but we all have a great passion for music, and I think we're all pretty nice people too.
I think so. Yeah, like to think so anyway, or we act like it. And the other thing is, in no word of a lie, if you're really passionate and you know your music inside out, you could get asked to take part in some of these panel discussion books, whether it's me or whether it's Martin Popoff. I mean, that stuff gets noticed, and people are like, hey, this person knows a lot about X band here. So there you go, folks. All the things that John said. Check out all of those channels. Make sure and follow them. And yes, go listen to some Y&T. Go get Facemelter. Don't sleep on it.
Absolutely.
John, thanks a lot for doing this. It's been great.
Thank you, Tim. My pleasure.
Thanks, everybody, for watching Tim's Final Confessions. We'll see you later.